Hello and welcome to CS 303, chapter number 3, lecture number 6. So, once again, welcome to CS 303, chapter number 3, and lecture number 6. Now, I am on slide number 2, and the title of this slide is Shared Memory. So, if you recall, in the last lecture, we were discussing about IPC or inter-process communication. So we had discussed that processes can be of two kinds. First kind is an independent process, so which has nothing to do with any other process; it executes independently. Okay, so it's not really receiving any data, any message from any other process. There is no communication with any other process. So those are like independent processes, and on the other hand we have communicating processes, and we discussed some examples. One example was any kind of client server processes. So if you upload a picture, we did this example. If you upload a picture using a Facebook app on your mobile, then that is a client process, right? And then once you upload the picture, then it gets transferred to Facebook's server. So Facebook's server is the server process, right? So you upload on your machine and the client, and then it travels through the internet, and there will be a Facebook data center located somewhere, and then your picture will be stored there. So essentially, we have a communication between the client and the server. So these are communicating processes, and we had discussed that there are a couple of mechanisms using which processes can communicate with each other. One of them is message passing, one of them is shared memory, right? And lastly, we had talked about pipes. So we saw that pipe is a special kind of file that can be used for communicating data between separate processes. So the example that we did was we had a parent and a child process. The parent process created the pipe and then wrote some text to it, and then the child process read from that pipe, right? So that was one mechanism, and finally we saw how pipes can be used in real life in Linux, right? So today what we are going to do is we are going to look at another kind of communication technique, which is shared memory. So definitely, when we talk about IPC, it is the operating system which has to provide the necessary functionality for performing this IPC, right? So the way it provides it is as to programmers is that it provides an API. It provides a family of functions that programmers can use. They can invoke in their programs, and using which they can implement IPC. So each system call, each function corresponds to a system call, and then in the kernel mode the OS implements that system call. We discussed that in chapter number 2. So coming to shared memory. So as stated, this mechanism requires communicating processes to establish a shared region of memory. Okay. So one of the processes can create a shared memory segment and attach that memory segment to its address space. Okay. Other processes that wish to communicate using this shared memory must also attach it to their address spaces. Okay. So we know that by default the OS prevents one process from accessing another process's memory. This is done for protection. So whenever you have a process running, the operating system assigns a certain part of memory to it, which we define as that process's address space. So each process has an address space in which the process lives. It consists of its code, text, stack, heap, and so on. We discussed it earlier in this chapter. So by default, processes are not allowed to peek into or access the address space of other processes. So obviously this is done for protection, for security. Otherwise, we could have a virus process or a genuine process that wants to create some trouble, and they can access some other process, and then they can write whatever they want in that. So clearly that is not desirable. We need the protection. So if a process tries to access the address space of another process, the hardware will not allow that memory access. It will stop it right there. So in the chapter on memory management, we'll see how exactly this is implemented. So in shared memory, what we are saying is we want to temporarily relax that rule. So what we are saying is a certain amount of memory, multiple processes should be allowed to access that chunk of memory. So that chunk of memory will be attached to the address space of multiple processes. Okay. So many of them now can access that memory. So as the name suggests, shared memory, a piece of memory, a chunk of memory, a block of memory that can be shared among many processes. Okay. So I hope the concept of shared memory is clear. Okay, now I am on slide 3, Linux shared memory example. So what we will do now is, just like we did with pipes, we will discuss a C program that shows how we can implement shared memory. Okay. So you need a Linux machine for this to run this program. Okay. So as we discussed earlier, the services that the OS provides with respect to shared memory is it provides a bunch of system calls, right? And at the programmer level, this just is equivalent to calling relevant functions. Okay? Each function then mapping to a system call. Okay? So note that whenever we want any kind of service from the operating system, that we need to invoke a function call, and this is implementing shared memory is definitely an OS service. Okay. It has to deal with memory management. It's definitely 100% an OS service, so we need system calls. Okay. So shared memory is implemented using memory mapped files, so which associates a region of shared memory with a file. So in in Linux, what you will see is that the concept of file is very generic. This file does not just mean a Word file or PowerPoint file. The concept of file is very generic, and it's used in many contexts. The reason for that is just to have sort of a uniform framework for various scenarios. So whatever kind of file API you have, that will work in all those scenarios. So shared memory is implemented using memory mapped files, and what that simply means is we associate a region of shared memory with a file. So we have a chunk of shared memory, and then we say that it's a file. Okay. So file operations can be performed on it. So here is a sequence of events that we will have. Okay. So first is create a shared memory object. Definitely that's what we need to do. So we'll have a system call for that. Set its size if needed. So definitely one input parameter we need is what is the size of the shared memory object, which we can specify. It may have a default size also, but if we want to, we can specify the size. Memory map the object, which means attach the object to a process's address space. Okay. Now that it's attached, we can do our reads and writes. So write to the object or read from it. Okay. And finally, when we're done, remove the shared memory object when finished. So it's created temporarily for data communication, and once data communication is done, shared memory object can be deallocated. So as you can guess, there is a system call for each and every one of these stages. So we first create a shared memory object, then we set its size if needed. If we don't need it, we go with the default size. So system call for that as well. Then we memory map the object, system call for that too. mmap. Then we write to the object or read from it. So we do those reads and writes, and then we remove the shared memory object when we are done, okay, with the reads and writes. So system call for each one of these stages. Okay, now I am on slide number 4, and the title of the slide is header files. So as you know, whenever we write a C program, we need a set of header files. For example, for printf we need stdio. We saw for the fork and exec system calls we needed some other header files. So in a similar manner, we need header files for this program as well. So they contain the definitions of the various functions that we will be calling. So the implementation is there, definition is there in the header file, and in our C program we just need to invoke those functions. We don't need to implement them. So f control.h for file control options, as the name suggests. F for file, and then file control options. So for example, to create an object or a file, right? So note that that memory mapped object, that shared memory object is a file. Okay, so for various file control options we will be needing that. Sys /shm.h. So this is for making the API function calls for that relate to shared memory. Sys /stat.h. So file status functions related to that. For example, file permissions, read write access, and so on. And finally sys /mman.h. So these are for memory management. So if you are curious, if you are interested, it would be a good idea to find out more about these header files. Okay. So you can just Google for them, and then what that will do is it will show up the name of the header file, right, and it will even show up all the functions that exist in that. So here it shows sys.mman.h for memory management declarations. Okay, and likewise you can search for shm.h, right. So if I go sys.shm.h, just doing a simple Google search, nothing fancy. So shared memory facility. Okay. So it would be a good idea to just read up. I mean, there are a lot of details given in these man pages. You don't have to understand each and every one, but at least you should know the definition and what that particular header file does. What are the functions inside it? At least by name you should know that. Okay. So these are all the header files that we will need in our C program. Okay, now I am on slide number 5. So we are discussing C program that implements shared memory. Okay. So we need a bunch of system calls to realize this. So in the next couple of slides, let's just learn some more about these system calls, and then we look at the program. So definitely we need a system call to create the shared memory object, right? Block of shared memory. So for that, the system call we will use is shm_open. So shared memory _open. So again, you can go to the manual pages, or you can do a simple Google search on shm_open, and you will get the information on it. Okay. So shm_open is the system call, or rather wrapper function and API to the system call. So what are the arguments? Name. So name is the name of the shared memory object, or rather it's a pointer to it. Okay. So you need a pointer to that shared memory object. So each block of memory we learned in C programming can easily be accessed using a pointer to that memory. So name is a pointer to that shared memory object. And then we have a couple of what we call flags. So these are symbolic constants which you would have studied in C programming. So what do these flags mean? O create. So create an object if it does not exist. Okay. And RDWR, object is open for reading and writing. So if you see the manual pages, there are two flags from which you must choose. One is O underscore RD only, which means open for read only. And the other flag is O underscore RDWR. So this is the one we've chosen, so which means the shared memory object is open for read or write access both. So this one is compulsory, one of these two, RD only or RDWR. Besides this, you can have a number of flags. So the other flag which we've chosen is O create, to create the shared memory object. Okay. And then we have 0666, so this is a code, and this code is for the directory permissions of the shared memory object. So read and write aloud, so the code is 0666. Okay. So these O create and O read write are in the fcontrol.h header file. Okay. So if successful, if the system call shm underscore open is successful, it returns an integer file descriptor for the shared memory object. So as we had discussed earlier, the shared memory object is implemented as a memory mapped file. So this whole object is a file which can be mapped to address spaces or mapped to memory of processes. So because it's a file, so if the shm open system call is successful, then it will return an appropriate file descriptor for that file. So now using that file descriptor, we can access that file, just like we've been doing. So this is, if you recall, this was how pipes were implemented as well. A pipe is a file, and if pipe creation was successful, two file descriptors were returned, one for read, one for write, and then using those file descriptors, processes were able to do read writes. Okay. So similar kind of mechanism works here. So that is one system call. The other is FT truncate. So this is used to configure the size of the shared memory object. Okay. So FT truncate. Okay. So this again, if you see, truncate a file to a specified length. If I search for this in the man or manual pages, truncate a file to specific length. So the shared memory object is regarded as a file, so we can set its size. Okay. So one argument is of course a file descriptor, right, and the other is the size that we want. So quite simple. The shared memory object that we have, now we can set it to an appropriate size. Okay. Okay, now I am on slide 6, and now we look at another system call for mapping. So system call to map the shared object to memory of calling process. So note that with the previous SHM open system call, we created the shared memory object. So now what we need to do is map the shared memory object to the address space of any process. Okay, right? So the process has an address space, and shared memory object is also there. So now we have to map that shared memory object to the address space of a particular process. So then other processes can access the shared memory object from that process's address space. Okay. So let's look at this mmap system call. So what are the parameters here? So this system call is used to map the shared memory object to the memory of calling process. Okay. So null means kernel chooses the starting address in calling process of mapping. Non-zero earlier, kernel takes as a hint as to where to place the mapping. Okay. So again, the source is the the shared memory object which we just created. Destination is the address space of the calling process to which we have to map the shared memory object. So one question is, where do we map within the whole contents of the address space of the calling process, where do we map the shared memory object? Okay, so here it is best to let the kernel decide. So it can sort of examine the address space of the calling process and see wherever it finds space, it can put it there. So if you specify null, then kernel chooses the starting address of mapping. If you put a non-zero value, then maybe if you put a high value, then you're saying that please try to map it towards the higher memory locations, and kernel may take it as a hint and try to put it there. Okay. Size specifies length of the mapping, right? Whether you want to map the whole or part of it, shared memory. Read write, so use the object for reading and writing, right? And map shared, updates to the object are visible to all processes sharing the object. So if any process makes a change, changes are visible to other processes which are using the same shared memory. So this is a flag for that. So again, these are just flags. If you read about them, you can find out. SHMFD is a file descriptor used to access a shared memory object. This was returned by SHM open system call. Okay, it's a file, it can be accessed using a file descriptor. Last argument is for offset. It means start mapping at the beginning of shared object. So here the other question is the shared object that you are mapping, where do you want to start the mapping with? You want to start at 0 memory location of shared object, or do you want to start somewhere else, right? So for our case, we put that as 0. So if the system call is successful, it returns a pointer to the mapped area. So it will return an address. If the system call is not successful, it will have to return something which is not an address. So perhaps something like -1 or something like that it can return. So if successful, mmap will return a pointer to the mapped area. It will do the mapping and it will return a pointer to that mapping in the calling process. So once this is done, the calling process, its address space will contain the mapping with the shared memory object. Okay. And a pointer to that mapping of the shared memory object will be returned by mmap. Okay. Okay. So once again, what we are trying to do is our source is the shared memory object, right? Shared memory file. Our destination is a place in the address space of the calling process where we want to map that shared memory object. So mmap is going to do that. Okay. Okay, now we are on slide 7, and we need a system call to remove the shared memory segment, to unmap it basically. So for that, the system call is shm underscore unlink. So if I just do a search for this, so give me a minute. The SHM, so remove a shared memory object, SHM underscore unlink. This function shall remove the name of the shared memory object named by the string pointed to by name. So name will be a pointer to the shared memory object, right? And what this unlink will do is remove the object and delocate the memory. Okay. So remove the object and delocate the memory. So once we are done with the object, so prior to this unlink, what will happen is you have a shared memory object which you can access using name, which is a pointer to that shared memory object, right? And when you unlink it, you break that connection between name and the shared memory object. So that connection is broken, and now the shared memory object can be used by some other program, right? So couple of now statements about the program which we are just about to discuss. Now that we have looked at the system calls, once the shared memory object is created, we can do reads and writes using pointers. So accessing a piece of memory using pointers, right? So in our example, what we'll have is we'll have two separate C programs. One is called a producer, one is called a consumer. Okay. So what the producer process program will do is write a message: studying operating systems is fun. to the shared memory object. So it creates a shared memory object, writes this text to it, and then the consumer will just read from that. So producer will write to the shared memory, consumer will read from it. So we'll have two specific programs, two different programs. So now we'll look at the program and note that here in the programs, instead of using printf, we'll be using a variant of that called sprintf. So what is the difference between sprintf and printf? So sprintf is used to write formatted data to a specified string. So when you use printf, what happens is the data that you specify is written to the standard IO file, right? Which essentially is your terminal, right? And essentially your computer monitor. So the text flows from your C program to your computer monitor, perhaps your terminal, right? You see it, it's the output. In sprintf, what happens is the output flows from the printf function to a specified string. So we'll be using that. So data is not being printed but stored as a string in the memory pointed to by a pointer. Okay, so we'll be using this version of printf. Okay, so now we're ready to discuss the program. Let's do it. Okay, now I am on slide 8. So this is a simple program for demonstrating shared memory, and now that we have covered all the system calls, this should be quite easy to understand. So our various header files, we already mentioned why we need them: stdio, standard library string, file control, shared memory.h, stat.h, mman.h, unistd.h. So once again, it would be a good idea if you forget to just search for these files and then find out more about them. So for example, if I look at stat.h, so probably for some offsets and from some sizes it's needed, essentially for file operations. Okay. So again it would be so within the limit of the lecture we can't discuss each and every header file in detail, but it would be a good idea to go back and study more about these header files. What is the name of the header file, what is its use, and what kind of function it contains. Okay. So it would be useful to study all of that. Now coming to the program, we have our main constant int size is 4096. So 4096 bytes, or in other words 4 kilobytes or 4K is going to be the size of our shared memory object. Okay. Now next we have some pieces of text. Constant char star name is OS, constant char star message 0 studying, message 1 operating system, message 2 is great. So what we are doing is we are declaring a set of pointers, and then now each pointer is pointing to a string. So somewhere in memory there will be space reserved for let's say 3 characters, OS followed by the null. So remember that all the strings are null character terminated. So memory allocated for holding 3 characters, OS followed by null, and then name will be a pointer to that block of memory. Likewise, message 0 pointed to studying, message 1 pointed to operating systems, and message 2 pointed to is great. Now note that all this code I have copied and pasted it from my C environment. So there may be a couple of typos, but don't worry, we will be giving you the programs separately as separate files. So you can test those and you'll see that they work. Next, int shm_fd. So this is for the file descriptor, right? shm_fd. So this is what will be returned by shm_open. So note that the shared memory object is implemented as a file. Therefore, when it's successful, if the shared memory object creation is successful, it returns the file descriptor to that, which can be used now to access that shared memory object. So this is where it's going to go, shm_fd. Void star PTR. So we'll soon see what's the use of this. So first system call to create the shared memory object. SHM underscore FD is SHM underscore open name o create read write 60666. So if successful, this will create the shared memory object. Note that we are not doing a testing here. So if a shared memory open is not successful, right, then it will return some error value. So we're not doing that error checking over here. Okay. So generally it returns a file descriptor, so it will be some integer value. So maybe you can check for -1 or something like that. So we are not doing it, but we should. So create the shared memory object, and now if the shared memory object is successful, we have a file descriptor to it, right? So whatever value stored, you can print it out if you want, maybe 5, 6 or whatever value we get. Okay. FT truncate, F truncate SHMFD size. So now set the size of the shared memory object that was created to what? What is the size? Size is 4096 or 4K. Okay, so that will set the size. Okay, now I am on slide 9. So now we discuss the second part of this producer process. So up till now what we have done is we have created the shared memory object and we have set its size as 4K, and we also have pointers pointing to our message. So different pointers pointing to different parts or different chunks of our message. Okay, so we'll write one at a time. So now that we have created the shared memory object and now that we have set its size, what is the next step? Next step is definitely now we have to map the shared memory object onto the address space of the calling process, in this case onto the address space of the producer process. So we call mmap, right, with all those flags that we had specified. Right, null means we let the kernel decide that within the address space of this producer process where to map the shared memory segment. Size, right, 4K. Read and write, we want to do both. Map shared, changes visible, changes done are visible to all processes that are sharing this memory. SHMFD is how we get to know which memory segment we're talking about. And 0 means when we are mapping the shared memory segment, we start the mapping with 0, right? So if the mapping is successful, mmap will return a pointer to that mapping. Okay. So again, think about what is happening. You have towards the left, you have just visualize this. Towards the left, you have the address space of this producer process, and so you have various parts in it, code, data, and let's say you have a chunk of memory which is free. Okay, and now towards the right you have the shared memory segment, and now what is happening is this shared memory segment is being mapped to that available space in the producer process. Okay. So once the mapping is done, whatever value pointer contains, what will pointer contain? It will contain the address of the first location of that shared memory mapping, which is now also part of the producer process. So once again, don't forget we are mapping the shared memory segment onto the producer process. Okay. So let's say if the producer process the text, the address space, let's say that the free area is 100 to 200. 100 memory location to 200 memory location, and now let's say the mapping happens from 100 to 150, right? 50 is still free, so then this is 100 is what PTR is going to be. Okay. Okay. So pointer PTR is pointed to the mapping. Now assuming that mmap failed, so if PTR is mmap failed, so map failed is a symbolic constant which can have any value which is not memory address, because mmap returns a value of pointer which is a valid memory address. So mmap failed can contain any value which is guaranteed not to be an address. So maybe -1. Right. So if pointer is mmap, map failed. So for mmap we have error checking. For SHM open we don't. It would be a good idea to add it. You can easily add it. Return -1. So now we have the mapping. We have PTR pointing to it. So now all we need to do is using PTR just write the message. So as printf PTR and then percentage string message 0. So now write to the shared memory region. Note that we must increment the value of PTR after each write. Right. So message 0 which will contain OS. Right. So that is sent to PTR. So what is message 0? Message 0 is a pointer. What is PTR? It's also a pointer. Assignment of pointers. So now in that shared memory, the first two characters have O and S written on them. Okay. And then you have to increment the pointer for the first for the second write. So PTR is PTR plus string length message 0. String length message 0 will be 2. Right. So the effect is PTR plus 2. So now pointer PTR will point to the next memory location within that shared memory, right, to which we can write. So again as printf PTR message 1 and then again increment and then as printf PTR message 2. So what will happen is OS message 0 is sorry, so it will write studying operating systems is great. That is what it will write. Message 0 is studying, message 1 is operating systems, and message 2 is great. So it will write all of them using this printf. After every write, PTR has to be incremented. So once again, to recap, what we have done is we've mapped the shared memory segment onto the address space of this producer process. We returned a pointer to it, and now using that pointer we'll just be writing a series of text messages to that shared memory. Okay. So note that shared memory is attached, it's mapped to the address space, it's not separate. Okay. So now I hope it is clear, right? Okay. So in the previous slide we looked at sprintf, right? So I just wanted to talk about that a bit. So we looked at sprintf, and what it said was, one example, sprintf PTR %s and message 0. So the effect will be that it will send the formatted output to a string pointed to by PTR. So the way that the string flows, or the set of characters or the string of character flows, the direction is from message 0 to PTR. So we just wanted to get that clear. And likewise from message 1 to PTR, message 2 to PTR. So you can just look at the specifications of sprintf. So it sends formatted output to a string pointed to by str, which is the first argument. So in our case, which is PTR, right? So now we look at the consumer program. So what has the producer program done? It has created a shared memory, it has mapped it to its address space, and then it has written this series of messages onto that shared memory. So what will the consumer process do? It also has to map, and it has to basically read. So we've got all these header files as we had. Const char star name is OS, right? So block of memory OS, and then name is a pointer to that. So you can look at this OS as sort of an initialization. So we should not have uninitialized pointers. So OS is just a way of initializing name. If you want, you can initialize it to a null pointer also. That will work as well. Right? Const char star name is NULL. So const int size 4096, same size as before. Int shmfd for the file descriptor, right, as before, and void ptr and int I. Okay. Now, first of all, we have to open the shared memory segment, right? We have to open the shared memory segment, and we do that shm open name, right? ORD only and 0666. Okay. So now in this case, note that we don't have the OCreate flag, right? So we don't have the OCreate flag. Because why? Because producer has already created the segment. So we have name, which is a pointer to that shared memory segment, right? Then we have ORD only, which means we only want to open it for read only, whereas previous case it was RDWR, because we wrote to it also, and then 0666. Okay. So now here we are doing error checking for the opening of the shared memory segment. If shmfd is -1, shared memory failed, exit -1. So it returns a file descriptor, right? That is a handle for that shared memory segment, and file descriptors are integers. They are positive integers. So -1 signifies an error. Shared memory failed. So what we are doing is we are opening the shared memory for reading, and if this is successful, we have shm_fd file descriptor to it, to the shared memory. Okay, now I am on slide 11, and we have to now map the shared memory segment in the address space of this process, of the consumer one. So note that every process that has to use that shared memory has to map that shared memory segment to its address space, right? The producer did it, now consumer has to do it as well. Okay. So we use mmap, same pretty much same flags as before, only difference is now we don't have the right flag. So mmap 0 size read map shared shmfd. Okay, right? Shmfd is a handle for that segment, right? So once this is successful, the shared memory segment will be mapped to the address space of this process. Okay. So now recall that the first producer process created the shared memory segment, right, which was stored somewhere in memory, and then attached. So that shared memory segment has a name, right, and then it can be accessed using that, and then the producer attached it to its address space. Now what the consumer is doing, taking that same shared memory segment and attaching it to its address space. Okay, so now it's attached, PTR is a pointer to it, and now all it has to do is it has to read, right? So here again we have error checking for the mmap, because mmap returns a pointer. So if pointer is mmap failed, print map failed. So we can have a negative value here. Yeah. Okay. And now all we need to do is we need to read from that shared memory. PTR is a pointer to it, correct? So it will contain a pointer to S, right? We are studying then operating systems, then is great, right? So it will have a pointer to the S in study, correct? So now what it does is it can read. So what we are doing in this example is we're just printing the contents. Printf %s char star pointer. Okay. So note that pointer was initially declared as a void star pointer earlier in this same program, and now we're just casting it to a char star, meaning that it is a pointer to a character. At any given point of time, it points to a character. So print, with PTR as a starting address, print the whole string. Studying operating systems is fun. Printf. Yeah. So we'll print the whole thing. And now we're done. We remove the shared memory segment, SHM unlink. So what does SHM unlink return? Upon successful completion, a value of 0 shall be returned by SHM unlink. And in case of error, it will return a value of -1. So if SHM underscore unlink name is equal to -1, error removing this pointer. Otherwise, it just breaks the link between name and that shared memory segment. And that is the end of this program. So once again, what the producer did was created the shared memory segment, attached the shared memory segment to its address space, then wrote the bunch of strings, and now what the consumer did was the shared memory segment is already created, so no need to create it, but what it needed to do was open the shared memory segment for reading, which it did. It got a file descriptor, and using that file descriptor, map the shared memory segment which the producer created onto its address space, onto the consumer's address space. Once that mapping was done, then just read from it and print it on the screen. So you see what's happening here. Shared memory is created, producer maps it onto its address space, writes. Now for the consumer, it opens the shared memory for reading. It attaches the shared memory to its address space. So it already contains all that text, and then it just prints it out. So you can see in this way, both producer and consumer are communicating with each other. Producer writes, consumer reads. Okay. So I hope this program is clear. And in the next slide, let's see how we can run this. Okay, now I am on slide 12. So this is how we execute this on a Linux machine. So you have two separate windows open with your programs in them, and then have two separate terminals open, right? And now you have to execute in this sequence. So what you do is you open a terminal, and then you do step 1 followed by step 2. So step 1 is compiling producer process. LRT, this is some flag, right? POSIX flag. So this is for real-time linking of your producer process. Okay. So you will need to do this. This is mandatory for the program to run. Okay. So make sure you attach this LRT flag. We're not discussing it too much right now. We'll go a bit beyond the scope. But you have to compile with this -LRT real-time linking flag. So then compile it. It will combine. Then run it. It will run. You will not see anything. So when you run the producer, you don't see anything because it's simply creating the shared memory, attaching and writing, nothing else. Now open another terminal and now compile and run the consumer. So you have to do it. You have to do in this series of steps 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So now compile consumer, run consumer, and what you will see on your output screen when you run the consumer is studying operating systems is great. So on one terminal, compile the producer with the LRT flag, run the producer, step 1, step 2. On another terminal, compile the consumer with LRT flag and then run the consumer. So you have to do it in this series: 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Proper sequence has to be followed. Otherwise, you will not see the output. Okay. So in this way, you can execute, run this program. So this was our example of shared memory. So I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you understood. Okay, so now I am on the last slide, and this ends our chapter number 3. So what did we learn in this chapter? So as I mentioned, this is part 2 of the book, which is process management. So process is nothing but a program, right? An application, an app, and in these series of chapters, part 2 of the textbook, we are looking at how operating systems provide a framework for process management. So in this particular chapter, we looked at the concept of a process, right? How do we define a process? What is the difference between program and a process? What are the, what kind of things does a process contain, right? Its code, its data, function calls, stack, heap, and so on. What are various states of a process? How it changes from one state to the other? We looked at a process control block. We looked at a context switch. Threads we did not look at. We'll look at it in chapter 4. And then we looked a bit on process scheduling, long-term scheduling, short-term scheduling, medium-term scheduling also in some cases. We looked at operations on processes, various system calls, process creation, termination. Looked at a bunch of programs, fork, exec, wait, exit, right? And then finally we looked at IPC mechanisms, inter-process communication, wherein in detail we looked at 2 different frameworks and mechanisms. One was pipes and the other was shared memory, and for both we looked at 2 sample programs. So now we have some idea of we have some sense of how the operating system is managing processes, how it is creating processes, how it is putting code on them using exec, how processes are waiting, how processes are terminating, how processes are being scheduled, how processes are being switched between each other, context switch, right? How processes are communicating. So we have some idea of how the operating system is doing process management. So we look at some more topics with regards to process management in the next couple of chapters. Okay, so that is the end of chapter 3.